All right, guys, I'm off camera, coming on camera. We're going to sit down with the legendary TedX. You can follow him, RC TedX on Twitter. So Ted normally is not on this side of the camera. Normally you hear Ted, in the booth. TedX is an announcer extraordinaire. He's been doing this for quite a while. The first time I met Ted was maybe 4 or 5 years ago now, actually, at this actual track. He did a race, and Eric Jones actually had to pit like every 2 minutes because his fuel tank was busted. You remember that? You remember that? And he's like, oh, my God, he's coming in. I mean, listen, Ted, he has a natural talent for making the race even more exciting than it is on track. And today, it's fantastic to be sitting here next to you doing this interview, Ted.
Thank you, and it's good to be here also. I just love this stuff, man. I tell you what, I could watch this stuff if I weren't, working the races at the track. I'd be watching it. I'd love to see this stuff on a national level on television.
And I tell you what, I'd love to hear you on national television announcing it because I would be at home like watching a Formula One race. So, let's talk about that a little bit, though, Ted, because, not everybody gives or pays enough attention to all of the things that you have to keep track of in that booth. You have a small team outside of the booth, but there's a lot going on in that booth, and you have to kind of keep track of the entire track. You have to keep track of the competitors, their times, and announce, and then make sure that you're giving the race the proper attention. I mean, tell me about some of those pressures. Tell me about some of those things that maybe everybody out there doesn't know that goes on in that booth.
Sure. There is a tremendous amount of pressure, especially races at this level where the talent and the competition and the skill level of these drivers is so high. These drivers have been doing it a long time, so, they recognize when things aren't right as far as the timing and scoring goes. And there's a lot of pressure to make sure it gets right, make sure it gets recorded, because you only get one shot at this. The last thing you want to do at a race like this is to have to restart a race or rerun a race because something didn't get recorded or something wasn't done properly. And there's all sorts of things that go along with it as far as, we had a little issue yesterday where there was a challenge of the Roar rules. And most things like that, we push off to the people that's running the race. But it starts, right there in that timing and scoring booth. That's right, yeah.
So, you bring up a very good issue because people, yes, this is a hobby. And, when some folks talk about, a bunch of grown men at a track, playing with really fast toy cars. But, the adrenaline out here and the fog of war almost, it gets intense. It gets just about as intense as any other competitive sport. And, sometimes people look for an edge in places that they probably shouldn't. And in my opinion, racing is finding the rule that hasn't been written yet. And capitalizing on that. The double diffuser from Braun in Formula One, blown exhaust was another one. A couple that didn't quite make it, and got banned and outlawed. So when folks come to you with those complaints, I mean, they aren't exactly in the best of moods. So walk us a little bit through how Ted handles that.
Well, luckily, especially for, again, races at this level, you do have that Roar rule book to fall back on. It's just unfortunate that, not everybody knows all of the rules. Not everybody has all the rules in their head right away. So, you're right. The tempers are pretty high. Luckily, I'm a calm type of guy, and that's right. That's right.
Physical person as well. So
that's helps. Right. Yeah, and just luckily, I walk around during the off times and talk to all these guys, and I feel like they at least like me and respect me. So they usually come with at a respectful manner. I'd like to address one of the things you were talking about the adrenaline level, at the sport. I talked to a full-scale helicopter pilot before, and he said, I can't fly those RC helicopters because it's a lot different when you're in it because you have that point of view. I mean, the skill level at these cars, things are happening much quicker than they do on full scale. So, there's a lot of excitement in Formula One, a lot of excitement in NASCAR. But announcing races like this, I mean, things are happening really quick, and there's always some action on the track. Well, I think that's why this sport, amongst others, would suit well for television.
Well, I tell you what, and so as you talk about that and about how quickly things happen, I mean, think about it. These things are 10 scale cars, and they're doing 65, 70 miles an hour down the back straight, right? So if we scaled them up, they'd be doing 700 miles an hour. I mean, can you imagine racing on road at 700 miles an hour going into a corner at 300 or 400 miles an hour? So I tell you, again, all of the things that are happening here kind of really focus and centralize on that booth because that's all people care about. A reading on RC Tech last night, folks were like, hey, where are the results? Where are the results? I mean, people want to know what's going on. So, there's a lot of effort and push to get more media here to these events. And, we'd really love to see that happen. So I tell you, RC TedX on Twitter. If there's anybody you want to say hi to, anything you want to plug or
Definitely want to say hi to all the folks, back at the home track, and now the defunct 301 Raceway. We're all looking for some place to race now, but want to say hi to all those folks, and definitely special thanks to everybody here at the Full Throttle Raceway in Kissimmee, Florida. They've always been good in having me come down and host some of the races down here, so definitely appreciate it.
So we look forward to having Ted on TV. I would love to see that happen. I would love to see us, get to the point where we hear your voice on ESPN. I think they race refrigerators and garden tractors on ESPN. So I think maybe somebody out there in YouTube land that knows somebody at ESPN, give us a holler. TEDx, RC TEDx, folks. Thank you so much.